like I said, we built it in '65. And he was working. I wasn't working. I mean, you know, I think our payments were less than $200 a month. You know, it's unbelievable. And in the late '60s, the aircraft industry started going downhill. They weren't building planes. And so he got laid off. And he got a job with McDonnell Douglas in Atlanta. So we rented the house and moved to Atlanta. And I was there 3 years. And at the time, Cheryl was, well, she was born in, that was '69. She was 9. She was in school. Steve started school down there. And he had a lot of work the first year and a half. And then that kind of just fizzled. So we stayed another year and a half, but he didn't work a good part of the last year that we were there. Couldn't find a job, or he found a job and it didn't pan out. So I started selling Avon in the apartment where we lived. And we decided then, we had this house in Columbus, our families were here, that we would just come on back. So we did that in '71. And I realized, you know, he had a job. We had one when he came back, but it lasted 3 months. So I thought, well, I need to get a job. So there was an ad for Avon manager in the paper, and I applied and I got that job. And I worked that job for 10 years. Now, Avon managers didn't sell Avon. They went out and found people to do it. And through those 10 years, my district was the Hilliard-Arlington area, but at times I had part of the Ohio State campus. Times I had the lower west side of town. You know, they kind of took the area and redistricted a lot and gave you different locations.
So how did you go about finding the people to sell Avon for you back
Oh, you tried to get referrals. You tried to get your people. You'd advertise in the paper. You'd knock on doors. And I had about 150 people selling. But every 2 weeks you'd lose 14 and maybe get 10 new ones. So it's a body business. I mean, you know, you get people started and 10 or 12 quit, and you get 6 or 8 to take their places. So it's, you know, but the more people selling, the more the district grew. In the beginning, the district grew a lot, and my salary was based on the growth. And so, you know, I doubled my salary in the first few years because times were good. And we had a car, you know, a company car, because you traveled to your salesperson's home and you did training and conducted sales meetings once a month to show off the new products, and those were in hotels. You know, you reserved a room and tried to get everybody there to give them a pep talk and go out and sell more products.
So you were the general.
Yeah, well, yes. Yeah. And so then Avon decides to do redistricting. This was in late 70s, early 80s. And 3 of us left, were asked to leave in 1980. So I was without a job, and I had gotten divorced in '78. So at the time, you know, I had a good job and company car, and so it wasn't really, you know, too bad. So anyway, in 78, or in 80 then, I thought, well, I'll try to stay with sales. So I went to the insurance business.
Again?
Well, yes, again, right. And you got a good memory. So I went to work for Horace Mann, which was the teacher's insurance company. And I did that for one reason. You had a client base. We were permitted to go into the schools and sit down with the teachers in their lunchroom or in their break room, you know, and talk to them about their homeowners and their auto insurance or life insurance. So you didn't have to just do cold calls. So I did that for 2 years, and I was single in my 40s, so I was having a good time, and I wasn't liking all this night work. So I decided that I think I'll just try to work in an office, you know. And of course sales are pressure. It's a pressure job. You got to sell so much, and anyway. So I went to work for an independent agent over in German Village. And it was a family business, and there were 3 of us in the office. And he was, I don't know if he was German or what he was. He might have been. But oh boy, was he set in his ways. The wife did the bookkeeping. And I stayed there 2 years. And I thought, no, I'm gonna find something else. I was doing, you know, just secretarial work. So I went to work for Alexander and Alexander, which was an insurance broker. And they were down in the old Huntington building, downtown, right, Broad and High. So I worked for them, and then they merged with Aon, which was more of a national brokerage company. And I stayed with them till I retired in '99. So I worked from 71 to '99.
After pretty much raising children.
Yeah, right. So, but I didn't work when they were little, and so that was nice. Well, they were good kids. I mean, I never had any problems. When they were little, of course, they played with the neighbors. I mean, kids they didn't sit in front of a TV, and they didn't have computers or iPhones or, you know, any of this that kids have nowadays. So they were good kids. And they seemed to get along, you know, pretty good. When I got divorced in '78, Steve was only 13. And that kind of just changed his life quite a bit. And of course, he didn't like being bossed by his older sister. So he seemed to find the wrong people or get into, you know, a lot of trouble. Just ordinary things that kids do that shouldn't have been doing. But his dad really was not in his life. He had remarried right away as soon as we got divorced. And so he didn't think the kids needed him, you know. So I don't think father should realize that a 13-year-old really needs his dad, even though they pretend they don't.
Did Steve like to play sports?
No, he did not play sports. Had he played sports, he might have, you know, been a different child. Yeah. No, he didn't. So, but he finally graduated. He was at Walnut Ridge, and he was getting in too much trouble. And his last year, he went to Reynoldsburg. And he graduated in '82. But the 1982 was when I was moving from selling insurance. I was kind of in between, well, his last year in high school. '81 is when I left Avon. So I was kind of in between jobs, starting new jobs. And he had a girlfriend, and of course the girlfriend became pregnant. So in 1982, I was the only one working. Cheryl had graduated and was going to Ohio State, and she was living at home. She graduated in '78. And anyway, she was working in a dress shop, you know, part-time. But I was working, and Steve was graduating, and so his girlfriend moved in with me, and they graduated in June, and my first grandchild was born in July. But Steve joined the Air Force in March of that year. He stepped up to the plate. And Steve is my shining star. He has been in the Air Force 28 years. And he's getting ready to retire. And he is a Chief Master Sergeant. And he's been, well, he's done a lot of flying. This weekend, of course, you know, was 9/11. On 9/11, he was working out of Travis Air Force Base in California as a flight engineer on a refueler. And I called him that morning because Steve's been married 4 times. He has his second set of children now. And his third wife had decided she liked somebody better. He was over in Saudi Arabia at the time, and when he came home, they separated. But this was in 2001. And he had moved into an apartment out in California. I didn't even have his TV hooked up or anything. He'd moved over Labor Day weekend, I guess. And so I called him after the first plane had hit, and I told him, you know, what had happened, and he was sound asleep naturally. And so anyway, he says, "Okay, yeah, okay, Mom," you know. So then, when the plane hit the Pentagon, I called him again, and he said, "Well, I might as well get up and get in the shower because I know what I'm going to be doing." So what he did that day is they patrolled they had fighter planes patrolling the West Coast. And so they refueled those fighter planes all day long on 9/11. And he said it was so strange not to see any other planes, you know, any commercial planes in the sky. That they really, you know, were up there and just by themselves.